Today we are saying goodbye to Genshin Impact. This has actually been about 2 weeks of me debating how I wanted to go about doing this, and I've decided this is the best way to just get it done and properly boycott the game. Right now, this is just my PS4 play hours, just to show that, you know, I played the game for 1,200 hours before on PS4, before we moved over to PS5. And then to see the Genshin hours, full play hours for the PS5. So the reason I am sharing these is for like basically accountability, so that when I install Genshin, we know how long I played it, and so if I ever install it again to play more, we know I went and played more, basically, because the PlayStation 5 keeps track of what games we play and how long we play them. And for things like Genshin, I played it for 1,026 hours over here. 1,200 over on the PS4. So that's 2,000 hours of playing this game that I'm now probably not gonna play again. So that's sort of sad. I don't know if it's more sad that I played 2,000 hours or sad that, you know, I'm getting rid of it. But yeah, why am I uninstalling Genshin? First of all, there is the video game strike for the voice actors. Right now, it just seems to be the voice actors who are not currently streaming video games. So they aren't actively uninstalling the games, obviously. And that's just because they're not promoting stuff until their contracts get signed. And that makes sense. That doesn't have to do with Mihoyo itself. That has to do with the voice actors agency that hires all the voice actors for Genshin that's dubbed in English. So it doesn't really need to be. Why am I going this far with the boycott then? That would be because of Natlan and how that whole thing went, with how it is very clear that they have decided to whitewash just about every character in this part of the game, and I just can't excuse it. I tried to excuse it for Sumeru. I still have a post save somewhere of how I mentioned it when Sino's teasers came out and how they, you know, lightened his skin in the teasers for that. But with Natlan, it's not even just lightening skin. They just straight up made a Nigerian god and Maori gods, you know, white people. And so that's just not great. And so I decided I was just gonna uninstall the game. Yeah, so we're gonna see. Because it took it like 3 to 4 hours to install Genshin. Something tells me it's not gonna take 3 to 4 hours to uninstall Genshin. But yeah. I did have an entire video planned where I was going to explain all this, and then I saw other people's comments about how they were sort of upset that the boycott was just people saying not to spend on the game and not actually, you know, refusing to play the game, and I think that's valid. If we're going to boycott Genshin and Mihoyo, we should boycott Genshin and Mihoyo and not play Genshin. If you can't not play the game for a few weeks until they continue to keep Natlan and still white people, unfortunately, that's just sort of, you have a Genshin addiction at that point, I'm afraid. And so it's not as hard as some people think it is. It's sad. I'm sad to see Genshin go after, you know, 4 years and 2,000 hours of playing it, but that doesn't mean I can't do it when I feel like what Mihoyo is doing is wrong, and I feel like the best way to communicate that to just not play the game anymore. And the only way they know I'm not playing the game is if I completely uninstall it, because they do get PlayStation numbers. They get PC numbers. They get mobile numbers. And as a free-to-play, me not spending is how I already play the game. So me not spending on a character is not me boycotting Genshin. I did that for 2,000 hours. If they cared about the free-to-play people playing for hours and hours and hours without spending anything, I've already done 2,000 hours of boycotting Genshin. So no, playing the game is not boycotting the game. And so yeah, we're just gonna click delete, and we're gonna see how long it takes it to uninstall. Because like I said, it took like 3 hours to install. It took it 2 seconds. Wow. I didn't actually think it would be that fast. That's fun. Okay, so the whole fun question is, do I also uninstall Xeno? Or Zenless Zone Zero? Because it is also a Mihoyo game. Let's see. Goodbye, Zenless Zone Zero. You were fun. But now we are done. No more Mihoyo games on the PC. Or on the PS5. Yes, you can judge what other games I do currently have. Don't worry about that. That's not important. No. But we will be switching over to, I do have some screenshots of comments from other players that are also either boycotting it, but, well, not even boycotting, they just stopped playing the game because of this stuff. And so just to like confirm it's not just me doing it, I guess, and that it is something others feel is worthy enough of, you know, avoiding and boycotting it. Because, again, they're taking inspiration from the tribes, it's disrespectful, and like me, this person has been playing since release. But they just, yeah, we just can't anymore, unfortunately. Well, I have whited out everyone's names because, you know, they didn't agree to be saved their comments for a discussion of POCs, you know, complain about Genshin. But it is just important to, as people say, listen to the people whose minority groups are being affected by this. Listen to their voices, listen to what they have to say about it. So include their comments when they personally say, yeah, I dropped Hoyoverse games. All of them. Because yeah, it's not just because the game is having issues, it is also because the fandom. I have seen that it's just showing the really dark parts of the fandom and make it not a fun and safe place to be. And so I'm just probably stepping away from the fandom entirely with this because yeah, there's just so much micro racism happening. It's just not great. But yeah, about how this is supposed to be native and Latin America, it's supposed to be from pre-colonialism eras, and so these characters are not supposed to be white, very much not white, and even if that was the case, it's still a mixture of different cultures, and so multiple people are being like, yeah, no, they just mashed up multiple native groups to make these characters, and are not like specifying one character is the Inca character, one character is the Aztec. Like that I would have understood if they wanted to include as many cultures as possible. If they want of Latin America and South America and Central America tribes and stuff, if they wanted to do that, I'd understand. But like we barely even have, like we can't even decide if we have Brazilian representation or not. You know how big Brazil is? You know how easy it would be to include Brazilian representation? And we don't even know if she counts or if she's Aztec. It's like, come on. And then you have actual, you know, Nigerian gods. Of course, Olorun is the king of this petition of boycotting because You can't make an actual god that people actually worship super white. But it's like, it's not that the game can't handle darker skin characters, or that they can't make characters that look nice with darker skin, because as others have pointed out, the enemies are darker skinned, but none of the playable characters. It's like there's plenty of beauty and diversity. Yeah, and that they add diverse skin tones, just not as the playable characters. And that other Latinos have been dealing with inner like racism against themselves, being said they're, you know, not actually Latinos and stuff, because it is something ingrained in Latin America in some places, just like it is in China and Japan and America. America is not above being like we are still having issues with white people being considered more attractive. The problem is seeing like we're better at this, but we are not. Gods of Egypt exists. It was made less than 10 years ago. We are still very much in the habit of whitewashing characters and people from different groups. And colorism is still a really big thing in Hollywood. It just is. And so it's like, it's not like America's any better, but it's like also something that is in these other countries. Just because they have a large like dark-skinned population does not mean that they don't like fantasize about a lighter skin tone for beautiful people, which is what this one's pointing out. And then that it's really xenophobic to say that, oh, it's because they're a Chinese company, they're allowed to be racist because all Chinese people are racist, don't you know? It's like, no. No, they are not. We know that for a fact. And then also that the Sami people have also had issues with racism with Final Fantasy XIV, so that it's not only Mihoyo that's failing in this department, and that the reason we're upset is because they almost lost so much of this culture to white people. And so, yeah, it's being removed and silenced and stereotyped by the bigger culture. And it's like, we expected not white people. And so it's like, but here we are again with a bunch of white people running around in our cultures. Yeah, and that it's also reinforcing stereotypes, but still making them white people. And that, you know, the brown characters are popular characters still. Like, they're popular. You don't need to be like, oh no, they won't like it if it's a brown person. They already like the current brown people. What are you talking about? It would be so easy to fix it, but they won't do it. Especially, we now have 10 characters for Natlan confirmed, and none of them are going to be changed now, unfortunately. That's why I'm just done with Genshin and Mihoyo, because I know they're probably not going to change. And so I might as well just back out now and just not mess with them. And if this is how their company does cultural representation, it's just going to be bad going forward. And I can't support that. So we're just gonna have to move on and find other games. And that's where the struggle is finding other games like Genshin that aren't Genshin, that have the world building and the multiple ethnicities and the different cultural representation, because it really doesn't exist. But like, it was brought up with Sumeru, and then they just doubled down and made even more white characters. Like, Sumeru at least had 3. And for Natlan, we have one that we already knew existed. So it's like they only kept the one character they already confirmed to be a person of color. But also, like, that Rosaria's skin color counts as a different skin tone, which it does, but it's just like zombie gray skin tone. But also, yeah, that it's not just Meso and Latin America, it is also Pacific Islander, Polynesian, Hawaiian. All of them are also being pulled into this and just mushing them all together. And that someone speaking up from China who has dealt with the bullying because of having darker skin and how it is a thing in China, but that is not something adults usually encourage or do. And so, but it feels like the racists are suddenly in charge of Mihoyo. The company wouldn't go bankrupt or anything if we, added a few more brown people. It really would not destroy the game. But at this point, I don't trust that they will. Unfortunately. And if it wasn't clear, this is Comet 10. I have quite a few more. And I mean quite a few more. This is 2 different people from Nigeria who were like, what the heck did they do to Olaroon? Like, it's sacrilege. A third person who's upset about it. And how, we've had this issue since Sumeru. And that anyone who speaks up is assumed to be just some white 13-year-old girl. And not actually the minorities being upset about this. It's like, these are actual people who are actually Latinos or Native or Hawaiian or Polynesian or Nigerian, and they are all very annoyed. It is not just white people. And that it's been happening in other games, but also just like, I quit Genshin, I'm not playing ZZ, I've lost interest in Honkai Star Rail, because all the characters look the same, and they really do. And so yeah, that we should just go and play some other games. You're just disappointing the global fan base, and the global fan base will just stop playing. And we'll just stop wishing on characters. It's like, people are like, go find another game? Okay, we'll go find another game. We have uninstalled Genshin, we have uninstalled Zenless Zone Zero, Star Rail. We'll go find other games. And then different levels of how much we think they're actively racist versus, unintentionally racist. I'm leaning towards intentional. That's the whole thing. It's like, if some video game took the Buddha and made him black, these same people would be losing their shit over the Buddha being portrayed as a black person, even though the Buddha was Indian. But we don't talk about that because they like to think he was a light-skinned white guy. But it's like, if that would happen to the Buddha, people would be upset. But because it's some Nigerian god, it's okay that he's some white guy. It's not racist to do that to an actual religious figure. And also that they've messed up with Fontaine too. That it's not just the people of color that are upset, but like other minorities, that they're just mashing into these larger groups. So yeah, someone else bringing Final Fantasy XIV up, though a little more positive in their view of it, because they're like, hey, they at least included brown people. Seemingly there was some stereotypes, but that is the thing. If Natlan had some stereotypes in it, understandable, that's how that works. You can't avoid some stereotypes ending up in a game when you're developing it and referencing a culture. It just is. There's some stereotypes, there's some that just becomes part of the pop culture zeitgeist or whatever, but yeah. But to have them all be white people is not the same thing as using some unhealthy stereotypes. Yeah, and that they're mocking the cultures. And that as a Brazilian, she's allowed to be upset about it. And to please not stop boycotting, which is why I'm actively boycotting more than just not spending on the game. Like I said, not just stopping at the not spending isn't enough. And this is another Chinese person saying they're Han Chinese. So Han is the majority population in China. And they are Han Chinese, and they are darker than 98% of the Genshin cast. Because that's the thing I've brought up in other posts. Is that China is not all white people. It's not all white Chinese people, man. And so just saying, oh, it's because the Chinese people are white. No. They really aren't. It's still not okay to do it. And that Dory was a stereotype. And oh, Star Rail's bad. Yeah, and that, you know, Mihoyo should know better. They deal with having the West, you know, bastardize and whitewash all their cultures. Why are they not being more considerate of the cultures they're bringing into the popular, you know, public eye? Yeah, also the argument of, oh, only people out in the sun all the time can be need to be the dark-skinned ones because they're outside all the time. It's like, black people are born black. I don't think that's a controversial or hot take. They don't become black from being outside a long time. They are born black. So it's like saying that only characters who are outside in the sun a lot need to be the dark-skinned characters is not true. But that the argument is, well, at least they made the desert people darker skinned. It's like, the jungle people could have been darker too. That's, you know, Indian. Yeah, and that it sucks to just see this encouraging a lot of the racists in the community to just be like, oh, you're making a big deal out of nothing. Oh, but the characters wouldn't be as pretty as if they were white. Or if they were brown. Shoot. No, they're not as pretty white. No offense, but these characters do not look great. It's bad for some of them. Like, look, the race bending, as it's called, but really just the darkening of the skin palettes really does make a lot of these characters look better. Yeah, feeling weirded out because they're Aztec lineage, and so they know what Aztec people generally look like, and that this don't look like anyone they really like. Yeah, I'm pale, but they don't look like the rest of the family and the neighbors and the other people they know. And that if half the population of the country is black or mixed, doesn't mean at least half of the POC of the cast should be POC, and then they aren't. And also how they immediately fixed the Neverlet bug, but they can't be bothered to do anything about changing the characters' skin tones, even though it's not hard. But also that some Latin countries still have, from the colonization era, just this thing about lighter skin tones being more attractive, just like in Asian countries. It's so... And that, like, people have spent ages learning about their cultures just to see the game they love just completely disrespecting it. And that India has had issues with it. If they aren't willing to properly represent the culture, why are they bringing the culture into this? Why did they bring all of the Pacific Islands and multiple African groups and South America and Central America? And why did they bring all these different groups into this culture if they weren't willing to have more than one brown person? It's like they have another European nation right on the way. They could have made some excuse to make it another white people nation, but instead they're like, no, we're taking from all of these other cultures that are people of color and minorities that have dealt with colonialism for their entire time, but we're going to give their stuff to white people. No, we don't see a reason why this might be seen as racist. No, not at all. Yeah, and that they were lying. Since 1.0, they had Ian-san planned as the character for Natlan, advertised Natlan as people with dark brown skin. Also, that the manga that came out in 2018, by the way, 2 years before Genshin came out, had Natlan characters, children of Murata, and Vanessa, who came with the children of Murata, is dark-skinned with red hair. We don't see the dark-skinned with red hair people. That should be children of Murata. That should be in Natlan. Like, where are they? Not in the game, apparently. Even though they've been known about since before the game existed. So they just suddenly decided they didn't want anyone to be that dark in this region. They went back on their world building. And also just how bad it was when Sumeru was coming out. And that if these regions are based off real world cultures and traditions, should include the people itself as well. And again, how they're upset that it looks like the colonizers who erased most of the history. What little is left is very little. And what's the point of representing the culture without representing the people? But Hoyoverse doesn't care. All they care is that they're still making money. And if they think it's going to make money, so be it. And that's why we need to, tell them it's not going to make them money. Tell them that it's going to hurt their player numbers. That people are going to stop playing this game and their other games because of this. It's not saying every character needs to be black. Even in Natlan, not every character needs to be black. It's just that more characters need to be characters of color than are being represented. And that it's textbook cultural appropriation. Yeah, it's just bad. I think I'm almost out of comments. Also that it's racism, but it's an opinion. No, it's pretty racist. It's like, if you're okay with Oleron being white, maybe double check and think a little bit harder before you say that, because that does come off as very racist. It's just, of all the characters, the one that should not be white the most is Oleron. Like the others also, because they're Aztec deities as their names for some of them, and some of them are Inca deities for their names. They also shouldn't be white, but Oleron is like actively worshipped to this day as a black guy. You can't make him white like this, man. You just can't do it. And then from an art and character design perspective, everyone is interchangeable. When he's just a Zhao clone, it's like, why is he a Zhao clone? Why do we need another Zhao clone? That they can't make a black character. How it is racist. And that she's not pulling any more Genshin characters, and that everyone else should be too. Yeah, I'm not pulling for anyone in Natlan because I'm not reinstalling the game while Natlan is how racist it is, because I have seen the spoilers, I have seen the NPCs, and it does not get better. The NPCs do not suddenly have melanin. They don't. They're all white too. The Hawaii Island sound is just all white people. And it's like, what is this? Have you been to Hawaii? No, you were like on a cruise beach or something. You were not actually at Hawaii if you think this is what Hawaii people look like. Hawaiians look like. It's not right. But also that we need to try and convince Chinese players. And that, yeah, that China has a colorism problem, but that Mihoyo isn't gonna listen. But that doesn't mean we don't boycott. We also boycott. Like, us continuing to play the game tells them we have no bite to our words. That they don't actually need to worry about us boycotting. And they can keep doing what they're doing. We have to boycott. And we also have to convince Chinese fans to also boycott. By doing what? Boycotting. And telling them we're doing that. Oh. And that was all the comments I saved. 38, by the way. 38 people of color. And that's just the ones I've screenshotted for this, which was going to be for a video, but I just did it as a stream instead of an actual video of just different people, all from multiple different ethnicities and cultures and groups, all being like, yeah, no, what Mihoyo is doing is racist. So maybe if everyone from every minority in existence is saying it's racist, maybe it's a little racist. Maybe we're not jumping the gun when it is like every group ever saying what they're doing is wrong. So maybe if what they're doing is wrong, we should be telling them that, and the easiest way to tell them that is to not play the game. and did not spend money on the game. And yeah, I think that's all I had to say. Mostly. Obviously, I will not be streaming Genshin anytime soon. I already hadn't streamed for almost 2-3 weeks now because after the Natlan stuff, I just could not bring myself to stream the game. So I have not been streaming, and then I just decided today that we were uninstalling the game entirely to properly boycott it because, as others have pointed out, it's not enough just to, not spend on the game. To be free to play is not enough. You need to actually be not playing the game. I hate to tell you guys who are addicted to Genshin, but you need to stop. Maybe even just for your own health. But it's not good, man. And the only way for them to hear us is if enough players stop playing the game. If their hours drop significantly. Because wasting server space is not a real thing for $1 billion company. It's like saying I am on the Google homepage and so I'm wasting Google's server space. No, you aren't. It's so small of a drop in the bucket. That's why they're free to play. Because it does not cost them anything to have you on the server. Having you off the server shows them that their daily login numbers have plummeted, that they are not getting as many active players in a day. That's not good for them. That you're not wishing on banners, even as free to play with free mode gems. Do not do free mode gems, because that's still considered a purchase, because someone is still spending on a banner. The banner still considers it a sale. And so if they count it based on banner sales and not on Genesis crystals or welcome moons or battle passes, then yeah, you're helping them by selling the banner. You just are. So don't go wishing on the banners. Even if you still want to play the game, which it's up to you. I'm not saying everyone has to boycott it. I'm just saying that if you do want to help with boycotting it, you need to not be playing the game. You need to be not spending on banners. Even with free mode gems, you just need to stop. And I know that's scary after 4 years of playing the game every day. But sometimes you just gotta do the right thing. But yeah, I think that's all I had to say on this for now. I'll see if I end up... I don't think I'll be posting the actual other cleaned up video because I think this covered most of what I wanted to say in that one. So I think I've said all I need to say on this, hopefully, and we'll just see. We'll see if enough people stop playing. We need to actually convince whales to stop playing. Content creators need to actually stop playing, which is why I'm stopping it. If they want to just say, oh, it's because of the video game strike, say that to make you... If one of these convince you to boycott the game, boycott the game. It helps the other one. It helps both strikes if you just strike the game. It's that easy. And so it's like, if either of these causes matter to you, whether it's AI voice actors or Genshin just whitewashing characters, maybe don't play the game that has risks of both of those things happening. Maybe just don't do it. But yeah, and I will probably be trying to play some other open world games just to experiment going forward. If you have any suggestions of good replacements, I will probably try Reverse 1999, because everyone says that one's great, but that one's like turn-based, and turn-based is the struggle. I'm not great at turn-based because I get bored. And so that's why I'm playing simple action combat games, and why Zenless Zone Zero was fun, and Genshin was fun, and I like open world, so I guess I'm just going back to Breath of the Wild. From the sounds of it, I'm just gonna go back to Breath of the Wild. Which, I mean, Genshin, it goes full circle. Genshin was a ripoff of Breath of the Wild, and Breath of the Wild actually has, brown people in it. Wow. What a revolutionary thing for 17? I don't even remember when Breath of the Wild came out. But that might be the next game I play. Who knows? Or Tears of the Kingdom. I might just skip to Tears of the Kingdom. I wanted to do it before, so we might just do that. Either way, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.